Because there's secret identities involved here, Ladybug and Chat Noir are viewed as separate entities for Marinette and Adrien in show. Of course, this leads to fairly distinct and different interactions between Marinette and Adrien, Ladybug and Chat Noir, etc. There's 4 prominent dimensions in their relationship dynamic so far. A convoluted love square that could be tied up so easily if just one of these two removed their mask. Though before even touching on the love square, it's worth mapping out how both characters operate on an individual basis, what their driving motivations are, their respective character dilemmas, and even their take on how either approaches being a superhero. That will make the final, later write-up flow more smoothly. It presents a picture as to who these characters will be once the masks come off, and there's no secret identity drama muddying the waters. Marinette comes across as very sweet and kind, but a bit socially awkward, overly conscientious, and self-doubting. She gets especially flustered around Adrien, dialing up her awkwardness to 10. Part of this stems from her overthinking and overanalyzing every part of their potential interaction. Look how she rambles on when she agonizes over how to say hi to the fellow, or how much emphasis she places on memorizing his schedule down to the smallest details. She's so worried about making the right impression and whether or not he likes her. This seems to be her approach towards just about anybody she wants to make a good impression on, though, be it the famous Jagged Stone or her celebrity chef uncle. What's interesting is that the biggest difference between Marinette and her alter ego Ladybug are how either deals with self-doubt. Where Marinette crumbles at and overanalyzes her problems, Ladybug swallows her fear and makes snap decisions. Ladybug comes across as a very competent, adaptable, and confident figure. She's very reliable. She'll do whatever it takes to address the heat of a situation or defeat Hawkmoth's latest minion. And she's MacGyver brand clever and creative. Everything is a useful and handy tool when looked at in a certain light. Apparently, Marinette brings her A game under pressing circumstances. Ladybug isn't necessarily a case where Marinette feels more comfortable pretending to be a different person or channeling an escapist fantasy. Rather, she's filling a role, becoming who she thinks Ladybug needs to be. There's times when Marinette shows how capable and creative she can be outside of her Ladybug exploits too. So, it's just a matter of Marinette tapping into and channeling that prowess in everyday life as readily as she can when she poses as Ladybug. Marinette isn't exactly a saint though. Look at the episode Vulpina. As soon as Marinette sees Lila batting her eyelashes at and hanging on to Adrien, she assumes the worst, letting her bitterness and jealousy get the better of her. This by itself isn't bad, it's a pretty natural reaction given how intense Marinette's feelings are. What happens next is what puts Marinette in the wrong and shines a prominent light on her greatest fault. She jumps into Lila's private conversation with Adrien as Ladybug, and caustically chews her out for a relatively innocent white lie. Lila certainly isn't the first to make ludicrous claims about her standing with Ladybug. In short, Marinette lets her intense feelings for Adrien cloud her judgment and reason. Her usually logical and strategic mind gives way to thinking with raw, unbridled, irrational emotion. At the most extreme, everything pales in comparison to anything that involves winning and keeping Adrien's affection, or Adrien himself. Look at a later scene in Vulpina, when Ladybug immediately reaches up to remove her miraculous when Vulpina threatens to drop Adrien to his death. To add even further here, she blatantly ignores Chat's protest that it's an illusion. Quite frankly, I welcome Lila as Marinette's rival and possible returning akumatized minion, Vulpina, as Marinette realizes the gravity of her situation. As in, how ferocious and unpleasant she can become when Adrien is involved, she'll become more self-aware. As a further result, the more she understands herself and moves to become better, she'll carry herself with Ladybug's confidence all the time. This intense jealousy ties in with her low self-esteem and overly conscientious nature. So, it's an issue that circles back to Marinette's greatest character dilemma. Making true amends with Vulpina and becoming more comfortable in her own skin is Marinette's big character arc. Adrien is a fairly nice, friendly, and very likable fellow. Pair that winning personality with his looks and he's batting girls off with a stick. Though behind the scenes, Adrien feels trapped and restrained. So many scenes show him sitting in a room with slatted windows, staring longingly at the world outside. Compare that with how desperately he wanted to attend a public middle school. how much of a proverbial tooth pull that was for him. Some parts of his outward appearance and conduct are a facade, a means to come across as low-key and down-to-earth. Even in portraits, Adrien can look unnervingly serious and solemn. Where Ladybug is a mandated source for Marinette, Chat Noir is Adrien's grand escapist adventure. He doesn't let Plug finish explaining what responsibilities and caveats come with holding a miraculous before he transforms and leaps into action. He slips easily into his role as a superhero. As Chat Noir, he shows off a more theatrical and eccentric part of his personality. When he's fighting, he takes time out to make bad cornball puns, snarky quips, or one-liners. When he comes across attractive ladies, especially Ladybug, he makes a point of acting gentlemanly, showboating, and flirting. While Adrien seems humble as his pedestrian counterpart, he has a bit of an ego. For example, he takes credit for rescuing Marinette and Evillustrator, when really, he wouldn't have gotten anywhere without her suggestions and advice. In short, Adrien has a roguish, ornery side he deliberately keeps hidden. Though, to know the true Adrien, he's somewhere between the Mr. Perfect rich boy and the charming rapscallion Chat Noir. There's a few snags with Chat Noir too, though. Adrien's more sneaky and deceptive side pokes up every so often. In Copycat, he notices that sculptor Theo has a similarly hopeless crush on Ladybug and hopes to garner her affections with his newly minted sculpture of her in action. Chat, caught up in his own bout of jealousy, makes a point of telling Theo that he and Ladybug are romantically involved. He even smirks devilishly at Theo's discontent and upset. This hints at an unnerving part of Adrien's character. Under pressing circumstances, is he willing to lie and manipulate people for his own gain? Considering that Vulpina openly embraces her sly, manipulative nature, it'll be interesting to see if she plays a thematic counterpoint to Adrien. Maybe in the same vein that Chloe is sometimes set as a counterpoint to Marinette. As in, this is who they'd be like if their given character faults were far sharper and more defined parts of their personality. On another note, Adrien comes across as someone who uses humor as a coping mechanism. He is grieving his mother's death, or disappearance, and parsing through his strained relationship with his father, if not feeling disconnected from others his age. At his core, he is pretty lonely if not a bit miserable. So, when life presents him an intriguing opportunity, he leaps at it, reveling in every wonderful minute. This ties in with the possible character dilemma for Adrien. Does he view his exploits as Chat Noir through rose-tinted glasses? He's so keen on painting his ideal of an adventure hero, everything takes on grander, more elaborate scope when he poses as Chat Noir. That may even tie into his intense feelings for Ladybug and how he sets her as this amazing, larger-than-life figure. He's infatuated with her as much as he is with what kind of fairy tale his superhero life is. Adrien's big challenge is going to be becoming more grounded and marrying these two different dimensions of his personality. As Adrien, he needs to cut loose a bit more often, and as Chat, he needs to rein in his ornery side a bit better. Like Marinette, he has some intensive soul-searching to do.